Redditors assemble. r/AskReddit. What is the scariest, creepiest thing that has happened to you when you were home alone? One night when I was about 12 or 13, my parents were gone for a while and I was just staying up really late, past midnight, on my desktop computer waiting for them to come home. Like most people, I had been told a million times not to talk to strangers on the internet, but about half my friends list on MSN were people I had never met before, so I was just chatting with a bunch of them. Out of nowhere, one of my online friends had told me exactly what I had been doing the past hour or two. What I was eating, drinking, playing with, when I had gotten up last. Things I hadn't mentioned in chat. I instantly got a horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. My desktop was set up in front of a big window, so as far as I knew, this person I had been talking to, that was supposed to live in a different country than me, had found my address and been watching me through the window. Turns out, he had somehow hacked into my webcam. I always left it plugged in even though I had been warned not to when I wasn't using it, and had been frequently watching me through it whenever he wanted. It's been 10 years and I still have all the cameras on my devices covered in thick duct tape. I ended up talking to some hackers on Ventrilo when I was 16, and stupidly accepted a file from one of them. I don't remember what he said the file was, but anyway, I tell them I'm going to shower, and when I came back, my webcam light was on. I knew right away and felt very stupid. At least mine had a light. Oh no, at least you were smart enough to know what had happened. My webcam was one of those cheap plug-in ones from Walmart they had out at that time. Didn't have audio or a light as far as I knew, but I had to beg my mom for it, because I wanted it to talk to my friends from school. Should have listened to her when she said it was a bad idea. The worst part to me was that I had been friends with this person 4 months by this time, so I have no idea how much he had seen. That is definitely very, very creepy. I was home alone after dinner with my girlfriend. Around 3 a.m. I hear a very loud bang. My dog and I get out of bed to scope it out, hoping to find the reason for the noise. We searched for 15-20 minutes and could not find anything. We go back to bed, and not 10 minutes later, bang. This time I am shaking. It sounded like it was coming from the same spot. I spent the rest of the night awake, not wanting to move. Found out the next day. Girlfriend put 2 sparkling waters in the freezer to cool them down. Forgot about them. Left the house and never told me about them. They exploded. That kept me up all night. That's terrifying and hilarious. This is also a phenomenon that happens to some people just as they're about to fall asleep. I had it happen to me and it scared the ever-loving shit out of me. Literally sounded like a gunshot. Exploding head syndrome. More common in kids. I had it as a kid and nobody ever knew what I was talking about. Fast forward 15 years and I am learning about it on a Stuff You Should Know podcast. I also had it as a kid, but had a night of it not that long ago. I'm 28, and I had forgotten all about it. Until, bang, and I woke up with a heartbeat that felt well above 100 BPM. Took a while to fall back asleep after that. Lived in a condo. In the middle of the night, I woke up to hear someone rattling my front doorknob. No one had keys to my condo except me. Then, the door opened up and I heard someone walking in. I was 100% sure I was being robbed. Fight or flight kicked in, and I flew out of bed and ran toward the front door screaming, "Get out of here," which came out as complete gibberish as I had been sound asleep about 30 seconds prior and now had crazy adrenaline pumping through my veins. I was literally jumping around in my underwear screaming and waving my arms when it dawned on me that the 2 guys standing at my front door looked more scared than I have ever seen anyone. One of the guys held out some keys. His hands were visibly shaking, and said something to the effect of his friend had given him the keys to his place and said he could stay there while he was out of town. Turns out the friend lived directly above me and these guys went to the wrong floor. The floors were not numbered and neither were the condo units by mistake. They didn't know they were at the wrong door and that the keys were the same. I was able to get into his unit with my keys and they could open up my door with their keys. Needless to say, I was standing outside the hardware store the next day waiting for them to open so I could buy a new lock for my door. Can't wait to find their scariest encounter story. Oh my lord. Imagine driving for many hours just waiting to plop your tired self into this empty house and sleep just to have some demon spawn screeching fear at the top of their lungs the second you manage to open the door. I'm crying laughing at the very thought, Lomeo. Like 20 of us college students went to a friend's girlfriend's parents' beach house one July 4th. We arrived at the specified address. She was running a little behind. We unloaded all of our bags, coolers full of beer, food in the fridge, claimed our beds, kicked off our shoes, As I was preparing the grill and friends got into the pool, someone noticed none of the family photos inside looked like our friend's girlfriend's family. About that time she called asking how far out we were, because she was waiting. We got the address wrong and set up in someone else's house. The neighbors looked at us like we were crazy packing all of our shit up so quickly. Looked like we were mob robbing the place. Lived in a second-floor apartment my junior year of college, and to save money I opened my balcony doors and windows and kept my AC off. This particular week my 75-pound dog W, a terrifying bark, was staying with my boyfriend and I forgot to lock my door. Terrible coincidence. Anyways, I woke up in the middle of the night naked in my bed to a man standing in my bedroom. Had no clue what to do. Couldn't jump up BC naked, so instinctively just said, "Yo, what the frick?" His response was, "I came up to shut your doors and windows," at which point I noticed all were shut. Then he left and I locked my door. Cried, "What the frick? Who does that?" A predator scared of being a predator. He's working up to it. There were a series of similar events at my school a few years ago. A guy was walking into unlocked apartments while people were sleeping. I think a few were assaulted. Terrifying stuff. One of the first nights I was home alone with my brother. I was probably 13 or so. Parents went to a concert and left me in charge of my little brother. Just after he goes to bed, there's a banging at the door. I'm terrified. I stay quiet and sneak to the window. It was a neighbor from up the road. We weren't friends. He's never been in my house before. I'm wondering why the frick he wants to come in now. I stood on the other side of the door and said, "My parents aren't home. I can't open the door." Stupid, I know. Never let strangers know there are no adults around. He yells back, "It's getting dark and I just wanted to let you know that your garage door is wide open." I felt like a schmuck, but I'm still alive. Not a schmuck. Probably best possible thing to do. Aside from closing it in the first place. You never know what someone's intentions are. Some police officer told my parents, when someone knocks and you don't want to answer, always say, "I can't come to the door right now. You'll have to come back later." It tells them to leave, while making it clear the house isn't empty, also known as an easy robbery, and doesn't give away details like number of people inside, age, or even X if you can disguise your voice. If it's something harmless like this, the above situation will happen. The nice neighbor will deliver their message through the door, but if they stand around, refuse to leave, demand to be let in, you know to call 911 immediately. Something like, "Come back later. I'm busy butchering some goats in the basement. Come back later. I'm busy making a human centipede." I was home alone with my toddler, getting ready for bed after putting her down for the night when I heard her call for me. So I went to her room and she was fast asleep. Weird. Maybe she had woken up for a moment and then passed out again. Got to the end of the hall before I heard her call for me in a panic. Rushed back in, and she was still asleep in the same position. Sat with her for a few minutes and then made my way to bed when I heard my husband call my name. Must have come home from work early, so I go to him, but he's not there. Call him and confirm he's still at work and decide I must have heard a neighbor or something. Crawl into bed and hear my husband call for me again and then continue talking, as if he's having a conversation with someone. Then hear my child calling me again and rush into her room, still asleep. This goes on for a while until I decide I must really need some sleep and go back to bed with the lights on. Too freaked out to sleep. I was staring at a picture hanging on the wall when it disappeared. Like the wall just ate it? Look at another wall hanging and the same thing happens. They would reappear when I looked away and then be eaten by the wall again when I looked directly at them. Decide I'm officially an insane person and call husband to come home. Fall asleep eventually and wake up and everything is normal except my heart rate can't decide on a pace. Swinging up and down between 30s 180s. Head into the hospital and I'm having a hypertensive crisis. Turns out it was the beta blockers I'd started recently. Nobody had heard of that reaction, so they kept me for a couple days until my numbers stabilized. No hallucinations after the first night other than hearing dogs bark randomly for a couple days. Not good times. Yeah, beta blockers can really mess with you. My wife was on them a long time ago, but it basically knocked her emotions, both good and bad, completely out and she didn't feel anything. It really scared us. That's rough, man. I bet it is pretty scary. Jesus, hope you're doing better. They would freak me out. Thanks. Yeah, it was bizarre. Not me, but my cousin. He was living in an apartment in a shady part of Madison. And some jerk-off was trying doors in his building. Was laying on the couch watching a movie, facing away from the door, when his front door opened. From the light in the hall he could make out a silhouette reflected in his TV. but he wasn't expecting anyone. He told me he was scared shitless, and just said, loud and firm, without turning around, "Get the frick out of here." Now, whoever it was did exactly that. I don't know what I would have done in that same situation. This is why we lock doors, people. I was raised with a family that just walks in unannounced, so I developed the habit locking doors without even thinking about it. I had that rule too in my family, but it changed too when it gets dark. Time to lock the doors. But once I moved out on my own, I always lock my door cause I never ever expect random meetups. I do not understand living without locked doors. That whole "we never locked our doors" sentiment doesn't sound quaint to me. It sounds foolish. Rented a cheap bi-level duplex in a bad neighborhood for 3.5 years so that I could save up money to buy a house. First thing I did after unpacking from moving in was bolster security. I changed the deadbolt on the front door and installed a locking door knob in place of the crusty non-locking one that was there. All the windows were old, shitty aluminum slider-style windows with horrible locks, and the back door was a patio door going straight onto a deck, so I bought a hardwood 1x4 and 2x4, and cut pieces to put in the window and door tracks so that any potential intruder would have to break a window rather than simply opening one to gain entry. I'm convinced that a past tenant was a drug dealer. In the first 6 months I had 4 separate instances of tweakers knocking on the door looking for Sam. A couple of the tweakers forlornly stepped off when I told them that nobody named Sam lived there. 2 others got worked up, asked where Sam had gone and where he was living, to which I responded that I had rented the place and had no idea who Sam is. After being visited by the tweakers, I redoubled my efforts to ensure that all doors were locked at all times. I still forgot to lock the front door once in a while, and I had a very creepy experience one night after forgetting to lock it. I was in the middle of cooking dinner one dark evening and went to the washroom. After washing my hands and exiting the washroom, I came back to my kitchen to see a middle-aged Asian man dressed all in black coming up the stairs from the entrance into my kitchen. "Who the hell are you?" I asked, startling him. He said he was there to fix a toilet. I was sure I was going to die, but figured I ought to talk to the guy for a few seconds before lunging for a kitchen knife and fighting for my life. The guy explained that the landlord, Gary, had sent him to fix a toilet. I told him that Gary wasn't my landlord and my toilet was working fine. He asked what address he was at. I gave him my address, and he started profusely apologizing, saying he had the wrong address. He backed down the stairs cautiously, put his boots on, and sheepishly left the duplex. I'm still not sure if he was looking for Sam to square up some unpaid drug debts and left when he realized that Sam wasn't there. If he was looking for a woman to prey on, found me instead, and reconsidered his insidious plan. Or if he really was just some pool sap who walked into a stranger's house while on a mission to fix a toilet for Gary, but I never mistakenly left the door at that place unlocked again. On first read, taking his boots off sounds like he was not looking to do any harm. Second read, I paint the all-black clothes as sinister and he removed the boots to be quieter. I also read it as that, but in our Asian culture, we never wear footwear in our home or anybody else's. It's considered very rude. I wasn't at home. I was working the night shift at a nursing home. I'm an RN, now disabled. It was just me and a CNA, and we were the only staff in the Alzheimer's unit. She had the TV on some stupid show about hauntings in America. She looks at me and says, "You'd think nursing homes would be haunted a lot, because so many people die here." I just gave her a look and told her to shut up. This place is creepy enough at night. We go to do rounds on a resident who was in the process of passing. She was on hospice and her family was aware. I checked on her every 15 minutes, because I didn't want her to be in pain and to see if she was in distress. At this time, she wasn't in distress, but it was obvious she wasn't going to last much longer. Her family lived across the country and had requested not to be called past 9 p.m. So, I stayed with her and held her hand and read to her from the Bible, as she was a devout Catholic. After all of the aftercare was finished, the CNA and I had been in the room for 15 minutes. I left to call the funeral home and all of that. I'd barely dialed the phone number when the CNA came running down the hallway and said, "She's breathing again." I don't know what to do. She was obviously freaked and her face was pale. I went to the resident's room and she was definitely breathing. I checked vital signs, and though everything was much lower than normal levels, they were there. I'd checked them several times after she'd passed and there had been no blood pressure, no pulse, no anything. She lived for another 5 years and claimed she'd met God. This is the creepiest thing that has ever happened to me. May have freaked you out, but I think it meant everything to her. Bless you for taking care of people when they need it most. Thank you. As a daughter of an Alzheimer's patient, Thank you so much for your love and attention to this woman. I could only hope that someone sits with my mother like that if none of us can be there for whatever reason. When she came back, had she improved at all, or did she pretty much pick up where she left off with the disease? I was nursing my newborn in the house we had newly built and just moved into. We didn't have a fence yet, and the back of the house was basically all huge picture windows. I am in the bedroom, topless, when I see a guy come right up to the glass door in the room and peer in. I screamed and jumped up, away. He didn't try to get in or anything. I'm not even 100% sure he saw me. He was an older guy. When I told my husband about it, he said it was probably an older contractor from the area who liked to come and walk the new neighborhood to check out the construction and new houses. I know he was innocent, but it scared me to death at the time. My mom's best friend came for a visit. Her friend also brought her boyfriend over too. He was weird. Something was off about him. A week later, my mom's friend dumped him. He was so enraged he brutally murdered her. When they were searching for her killer, my mom tipped him off that he was the one that did it. She was sure it was him. Come to find that he did it. My mom unknowingly spent some alone time with her best friend's murderer in our house. Frick, that poor woman. Oh no, that's really sad. My cousin was murdered by her boyfriend a couple of years ago. It's so much worse losing someone knowing that they went out so horribly. I was 15. My mom was out for the night and I was home studying. I had my headphones on, so I could listen to music while I was working. I guess it was around 9ish. My pencil rolled off the table, so I bent down to pick it up, and as I did, I looked toward the front door. The doorknob was turning slowly, back and forth. Now, it's an old house and the doorknob is old, but I know the way it unlocked from the outside, and with the key in, the knob only turns one way. I moved to the kitchen and called 911, almost eerily calm, and told them my name, address, that I was home alone, and someone was trying to come through my front door. Dispatch stayed on the line with me and said they were routing a helicopter to fly over. Did I have a dog? I did, and she told me to call the dog to the back door and then open the door and bring the dog in, because they were going to use infrared on the backyard. I asked if that was safe. What if he was in the backyard? Her advice was to scream and she would notify the police en route that an assault was in progress. Yikes! So I called my poor little cocker spaniel to the door and pretty much threw him over my shoulder into the house before slamming and locking the door. Not much good it would do. That door had a single hung window in it. There was a large window next to it, and a huge picture window in the living room. If someone wanted in, that deadbolt wasn't stopping much. Once I had the dog in, she told me she was going to hang up and call back in 5 minutes. In that 5 minutes, I was to call the place my mom was and get her to come home. I called. She was playing darts, so I told them to give the phone to her boyfriend and I told him what was going on. Apparently, he walked up to where my mom was playing, grabbed her and walked out of the bar. When the dispatcher called back, she gave me the names, descriptions and badge numbers of the responding officers and that she had informed them they were to hold their badges to the front window before the door would be unlocked for them. They showed up, showed me badges, and I opened the door. My mom was less than 5 minutes behind them, which, considering SoCal traffic, means her boyfriend broke a number of traffic laws to get there. That's when the police showed us the cigarette butts and footprints by the front window and the kitchen window, and the mud scraped off on the top of the gate that separated our front and backyards. Apparently, he had been watching me through the windows for quite a while before deciding to break in. Terrifying. Kudos to the dispatcher and cops responding so quickly, and the bar and boyfriend. That could have been even scarier. While this is a scary freaking story, I feel oddly relieved that everything went smoothly. Not at home, but at the barn alone. I'm standing there grooming my horse and out of nowhere I feel all the hairs on the back of my neck stand up and my fight or flight response kicks in. I turn around and there's a guy I don't know standing in the doorway looking at me with a creepy smirk on his face. He introduces himself as the boyfriend of a woman who keeps her horse at the farm and starts chatting and walking toward me. My normally very chill horse starts dancing around nervously and moves to position himself between me and the man before the man can get to me. I noped out of there and literally got on my horse and galloped off into the woods. 100% believe that man had ill intentions. Did you ever ask that woman if he was really her boyfriend? Scary part is that he still could have been dangerous even if he was her boyfriend. Man, I freaking love horses. Always better to trust the herd animal's instincts than ignore them. Especially if they've got a stake in keeping you safe like your lovely horse obviously does. Hope he got lots of apples and rubbings down for his horse, sent smiley face. That horse saved my butt many times. He was spoiled rotten and lived to a ripe old age. Best dude? There was this one time when I was a kid. I watched the movie I Am Legend with my brothers, and near the end there's a scene with a dog that makes you not want to pet dogs. Let's just say, so we got home and there was a puddle of pee on the floor, but the house was locked and no one was home or had been home. We thought there was a zombie dog somewhere in the house just peeing on our shit, but we could never find any reasonable explanation. Turns out years later that the neighbor kid would pee in upturned frisbees and freeze them and slide them under people's front doors for them to melt. Damn, that kid must have ate a ton of asparagus. That is a sick kind of genius. Yeah, that's actually brilliant. Terrible, but brilliant. How big is the space between your front door and floor? Slightly larger than a piss disc. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please smash the like button and leave a comment which story you liked the most. Subscribe and hit the bell notification for updates on our latest videos. And don't forget to check the links in the description box for more awesome content.